Good day, friends. It's a cold spring day here in Wellington, New Zealand, and I'm in my propagation bench. And as I promised in my last video, I'm going to show you how I propagate some of my houseplants. So I have here the Calicia repens or pink bubbles. This is already quite dense, and I need to trim off some cuttings, so I might just as well propagate the cuttings that I removed from this plant. And this one here is the string of pearls. Also, I can get some parts of it to be propagated from cuttings. This one here is Aglaonema prestige, and I think I can remove or separate about 4 suckers from this plant. And the fourth one is the Monstera deliciosa, and I can propagate this from cuttings. So friends, please stay tuned. Okay, so friends, we'll start off with this first plant, the Monstera deliciosa, and this plant can be propagated by cuttings. But one unique characteristic of this plant is that it has preformed root initials that give rise to roots even before the cutting is removed from the mother plant. So we have here a long root already, and here's a developing root on top. And as a rule of thumb, cuttings from Monstera needs to have 2 nodes. So we have a node here, this part here, and another node here. So it's best to cut from this portion. So using a sharp pair of secateurs, I can easily remove this part here. Okay, so we have a cutting which is ready for propagation. Right, so I now prepare the propagation medium for my Monstera cuttings. I use an ordinary potting mix. This is mainly fine bark with gypsum and some controlled release fertilizer. But I mixed this with a cutting mix. The cutting mix is composed of fine pumice with some cocoa fiber. So the combination of the potting mix and the cutting mix will make a very good medium, which is very porous. And when it's porous, that means it is well drained and air is freely circulating within the medium, lessening the chance of the cuttings to rot. But this medium is also quite retentive of moisture. So I have here the medium that I'm going to use. This is composed of 3 parts ordinary potting mix and 1 part of this cutting mix. Right, so I'm now ready to plant my Monstera cuttings. I use a pot big enough to contain this cutting, and this is a recycled pot. I do this because pots are quite expensive, and this will cut the cost of production. So the first thing to do is to add the propagation medium into the pot. First I put about 2 inches deep of the medium, and then I slowly position the cuttings into the pot. And since the root is quite long already, I twist the plant so that the cutting will be positioned at the middle of the pot. Okay, and then I add some more medium so that at least the first node of the cutting will be covered. Okay, so there you are. That is the first of my Monstera cuttings being planted. I should be able to plant about 3 cuttings today. By the way, some propagators would strike the cutting first in water and wait until the roots form, and then they transplant it into the pot. But I have tried to bypass that procedure. I plant the cuttings directly into the medium, and I had 100% success, so that I will continue doing that one. So the next thing to do is to make sure the soil is moist, so you add water. And since our medium is very porous. It tends to dry up quite easily, so watering about twice a week should be sufficient. Okay, so there you are. That is your Monstera cuttings. Okay, so the next plant to propagate is the Aglaonema Prestige, and I'm going to propagate this using division. So you can see quite a few suckers that have formed from the sides of the mother plant, and I'm going to try to separate them and grow them as individual plants. So the thing to do is to remove the medium from the pot very gently, so that the roots will not be disturbed. Okay, so there's the base of the plant, or the crown of the plant, from which baby plants arise. So I can just gently remove this from the mother plant. Okay, and there you are. There's one plant with roots, and this baby plant here. Maybe I can try to see if I can. It actually has two roots there, so I'll try to propagate this as an individual plant too. So I have two there, and then okay. So that's another plant there. Okay, and I guess this is too small. So I'll just wait until this grows bigger, and then I can propagate this again. So I will pot this individually using some of my recycled pots, and then and I will show you these individual plants later. Okay, so these are the newly propagated Aglaonema Prestige. From just one plant, I now have 4. Right, so we now go to our next house plant, and this is Calicia repens, commonly known as pink bubbles. So I'll just try to get some cuttings from this plant. There. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so these are the cuttings that I have taken from my pink bubbles model plant, and I'm now ready to plant these cuttings. So I have prepared a small pot, and I've put my medium, which is pure cutting mix, and I will dip each cutting into my rooting hormone, that one there, and then plant it directly into the pot. Okay, and the end of the cutting is resting at the side of the pot. Okay, so these are the 2 pots containing the cuttings of the pink bubbles that I have just planted. So the final thing to do is to put these 2 cuttings inside this plastic bag, and then tie the top of it just very loosely. So why am I doing this? Now this is to create a high relative humidity conditions inside this plastic bag, and that is to keep the cuttings fresh, keep it from drying, so that the cuttings will survive. So what I'm going to do now is just to wait a few days or a few weeks and just try to examine if the cuttings have already formed roots. So then if the cuttings have firm roots, then I will transplant them into the permanent plants. And for this fourth plant, the string of pearls, basically do the same procedure that I did for the pink bubbles. Get some cuttings from it, remove some of the pearls or the leaves at the bottom so that I can stick the bottom of the cutting into the medium. Okay, so these are the cuttings that I've removed from my pink bubbles mother plant, and I have also prepared the pot, the potting medium, which is the same as the one I used for the pink bubbles. And I have also a rooting hormone that should speed up the rooting of this string of pearls. So poke a hole, about 6 holes into the pot, so that I can easily plant these cuttings into the medium. But before I do that, I'll dip the bottom into the rooting hormone and then just stick it there again, like down there. Okay, and take note that I've removed the lower leaves of the cuttings, like what I did with the pink bubbles, so I can actually firm the soil up so that there's a good contact between the base of the cutting and our potting medium. And finally, I'll add water to ensure that the medium is moist. And just like the pink bubbles, I will also put this inside a plastic bag to keep the conditions inside moist. So that's it for now, my friends, and thanks for watching my video, and I hope you've learned something from it, and would encourage you to subscribe to my Easy Gardening channel if you have not done it yet, so that you will be able to watch my future videos. If you have some comments, questions, please write them in the comment section below. Bye, and have a good day.